Hello, guys. Welcome once again. I'm your host of the Young Entrepreneur Mindset Podcast, and I want to thank you for joining me tonight, Monday, another great Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today is Monday, June 14th, and I'm so excited to be here. I want to thank you guys for commenting, sharing this content. Please, if you're watching it through Facebook, go ahead and subscribe. I'll share and going through my YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I appreciate it. Any comments, any questions, anything that you have for my guests during the show, please write the comments down. I'll share the links where you can find also their social media. So today, I'm honored to have someone very special here with me today. But before we do that, as you know, I want to go ahead and make some quick announcements. This, as you know, um, the audio download after this segment is over. You go ahead and find it. I'm going to share all the links so you don't have to be doing any research. I'm going to share everything through the Facebook page, the YouTube channel, etc., Instagram, Twitter. My Instagram people that are here, please follow me on my Facebook page and go over there and watch it because the Instagram live does not connect with my stream here. But that's fine. Let's go ahead and follow me on Facebook or my YouTube channel. The audio download is going to be available through the Anchor app. Okay. It's also brought to you by the Spotify and Google Podcast. So if you go to Google, I am very pleased to announce that if you go to Google and you type in my podcast, Young Entrepreneur Mindset Podcast, I'm running the top five on the Google search. So that's a blessing and a privilege. Yes. I'm so excited. So you'll find me there. You'll see my logo, right? You see some of my stuff that's coming out. And I'm so glad. I'm so glad, and I'm blessed. I'm blessed, and I'm honored to have all that information out there. So you can follow me my Instagram account under Angel Santos 75, and my Twitter account. You can also follow me there at the same name. As you guys know, I am the mailbox guy here in Orlando, Florida. So I am in the mailbox business as well, trying to stay busy, doing all kinds of things. You know, entrepreneur, we have to be busy doing all kinds of things. We always say that we don't put all of our eggs in one basket. We have to do multitask. So visit my website there, drymailbox.com. Also, my wife and I, as you know, we do our natural supplements. So if you're into natural supplements, look no further. There's my website there. We have all kinds of energy products, natural products. We have the number one. We're the number one in the immune system industry. Number one, immune system for life research. Look it up. There's my website. You can check out my virtual store. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. So, guys, once again, thank you for joining. Share this content because today we are going to have a great segment. We're going to have a great story. Trust me, you're going to want to stay until the end because this woman that I have met recently, I found her through a website that she is available to for interviews because of what she has lived throughout the past years. And I just met her, so I'm going to be getting to know her just like you guys are during this podcast. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome her. I want to bring her on. Please help me welcome Miss Allison. Hello, Alison Pena. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
Fantastic. Thank you once again. Thank you so much. It's an honor and privilege to have you here on the Young Entrepreneur Mindset Podcast. How are you today? How's your day been going so far today, Monday?
It's been going great. I've gotten a lot done on my business today.
Oh, that's good. That's always good. That's good. And so let's get right into it. Before we do and talk about everything, your name, the AKA Bad Widow, and all this other stuff and stuff that you're doing right now, I like to introduce my audience to my guests and have them know about your story. You know, basically, I know you're a born New Yorker, born and raised in New York. How was your family? Your family growing up? What did you learn the most from? Like your father, your mom, etc., like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I was born in Boston. I grew up in Manhattan, in New York.
Okay.
My dad was an investment banker. My mom uh, worked as a photography teacher, ran an education department at the International Center of Photography. And I was the oldest. My brothers said I was bossy. Uh, Three brothers. I
Three
had one
brothers.
brother who died when he was 23 and I was 25,
Oh wow. Okay.
of a genetic
Oh.
enzyme deficiency. So that was sort of the first loss in my
Ooh.
life.
Yeah. Oh
Yep,
my God. Yeah. That's so. Out of the three brothers, are you the oldest?
I'm the oldest.
Okay. And he was the second behind you, as far to
Second
say.
behind me. Yep.
Okay. Oh wow. I'm sorry to hear that. And what year was that?
Uh, you're asking me to do math.
Oh, well, that's a long time ago. I mean,
So
you're
yeah, so actually it's easy because I'm born on an even year. So it was 85.
wow. Okay, that's why I want to have an idea more or less. How long? Okay, because that is a while. So your dad was what was his occupation? Your dad,
Investment banker.
investment banker, and your mom with photography.
Photography. So she
I
was a housewife and she was not happy as a housewife. So then she taught photography at my school and then she got a job in the education department, running the
okay,
education department of a
right.
nonprofit.
Now, when you talk about photography, because I see that in your social media, you have a lot of art. You're into a lot of art.
My husband was an artist who left
Ah,
me a
okay.
thousand paintings.
1,000 paintings.
Yes,
Wow.
which I'm now
Oh,
in the process of selling.
okay. Okay. Where do you sell that, if you don't mind me asking? Like an auction, like an on website?
I have a website which is
Okay.
dbpenaart.com,
Okay.
and so you can go there and see. I only have 278 paintings up so far.
So far. Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, on your busy schedule trying to keep up with all those paintings. Now, Allison, so when you were in school, like when you graduated high school and whatnot, what were your plans? Like, what was your dreams of becoming what in that time?
Well, I mean, I got a BA in English, and I had a thought to become a teacher, but I really hated school. I love learning and I hate school.
Yeah,
So,
especially teachers that are responsible for handling the kids, especially. But what kind of teacher did you want to be? Like, it was smaller or the high school?
English. I love language. Actually, one of the
Okay.
things I do is I tutor three kids, a fourth grader and two sixth graders. So I
Oh,
love
you
that
too.
age.
Oh, okay. Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. So when you finished high school, what did you do after high school? Did you go to a college, 4-year college and all that? You did all that?
I went to college. Yep. And then I came out of college, and then um, I kind of drifted fairly shortly after that. My brother died right
Okay.
in that time frame, and I was not in good shape. And then I went and I got a job in finance for a
Okay.
financial services firm. That I did that a couple of times.
Right.
And then after that, I became a proofreader
Oh,
for
okay.
medical, legal, financial, all these different companies through agencies.
Right.
And then I became a medical editor. And when I was about to turn 50, I asked myself, it was kind of those eureka moments where something happens and you wake up and you say, is this what I'm meant to be doing?
Mm.
So I was about to turn 50 and I asked myself if I was meant to be a medical editor for the rest of my life. And the answer
Wow.
was no. And so I
Wow.
quit, probably too early. There were some tough years in there,
Yeah.
and built a consulting business with one piece of what I do, and then went along doing that for a while. And then my husband was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And
Okay.
that was another of those moments where you go, what am I doing?
Yeah, because you were married. You guys were married how many years?
We missed our 20th anniversary by 3 weeks. We were together almost 25 years. A long time.
Wow. Wow. Okay, so you
Yep.
guys dated a few years before you got married. Okay. And you
Yep.
guys got married in New York?
Yes, we did. We
Okay.
did. We met in 1992 and we got married in 96.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yep.
So take us through that story then, because one of the questions I want to ask you was like how, how did you overcome that? First of all, I mean, was there any, if I could say, if I could ask, any genetic, like was there something from his previous parents that had that type of cancer issue, or anything genetic, anything?
Not cancer. I mean, he
No.
was a diabetic, but there
Okay.
wasn't, to my knowledge, there was not cancer in his family.
In his family.
Um, so it was October 12th, it was 2015, and he had been in pain for a few months.
Okay.
Um, and we couldn't figure out what it was. So we went to doctors, we went to those urgent care centers, we went to the
Yeah.
ER, and nobody could tell us what was wrong. And finally, a doctor said, get a CAT scan.
Okay.
And that was a Friday. And then the Monday, the doctor said, come in and see me now. It's
Wow.
never a good sign when a
Yeah.
doctor says that.
No. No way.
What you want to hear is, you can come see me in 2 years. That's what you
Right,
want.
exactly. Or the test came, we could talk over the phone or something, but to see in person. Now I
Yep.
want to share something with you, Alice, because as I was telling you before, and I know we're getting to know each other.
Mm,
Before the pandemic, January 20th, 2020, the the day of my wife's birthday, her 50th birthday.
mm,
Um, we because she was coming up with a dry cough back in 2019. We thought it was probably seasonal, the cold, pollen, especially here in Florida.
right.
And she had that dry cough and whatnot. And people were telling her, you should go check. And we're like, no, that's it's seasonal and whatnot. And long story short, one Sunday morning, she just told me, she's like, let's just go to the ER, because she felt something in her heart saying, go check yourself, go check yourself. And it
Yep.
was getting to the point where she was she was getting worse and whatnot. And like I said, and yeah, well, we went to the ER, but wasn't the doctor was like, oh, come and see me and whatnot, because we didn't know. We thought first it was like, maybe pneumonia or something that was causing the cough. And then to
Right.
come with
Right.
the diagnostic, we were 4 hours in the ER. The second hour was like, okay, antibiotic, we'll take care of the pneumonia or something, and we'll be in the hospital maybe 2 days. Okay, fine, I could deal with that. But
Yep.
then 4 hours later, when the results came for the chest, that's when they said, okay, we're seeing a mass on your right lung, and but since it was a smaller hospital, they said it could be lung cancer, but we're not 100% sure. They were asking us if I smoke. I said I never smoked. She said she never smoked in her life,
Right.
and from that day on, Allison, our life has changed completely until this day, because we've seen like the face of adversity, just seeing that there. And it's like, that's why when I saw your bio, I could relate to it, because for us, having a 9-year-old daughter, at the time she was 8,
Yep.
and for even my daughter to hear the doctor say what her mom had was for her shocking. And it hit us hard, but we didn't go through that phase where you went, where you lost your husband. Take us through that, and how was.
Yeah, it was. Um, so pancreatic cancer is a really nasty one. And the lifespan for someone who is diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, which is what he had, is 6 weeks to 4 months.
That's what the
So
doctors gave him? Okay.
that's the when I Googled it, that's what it said.
Oh, okay, okay, sorry. Okay.
And so we didn't know how long we had. We
Right.
didn't know how many more days we had. And the doctor said, slow down and do less and stop. That made no sense to us,
Okay.
because if his time was running out and our time together was running out,
Right.
why would we not live full tilt?
Mm.
And so we started doing that. We started cutting out the people and the activities that weren't really, really joyful for us. And we
Okay.
started doing as much as possible only what we loved. So he finished his last watercolor commission the Thursday before the Saturday he died at home. He
Wow.
was playing tennis right till the end. He was talking to me that morning. And I had wanted to talk about my work on stages and
Okay.
sing in cabaret shows. And in
Oh,
the 11 months when he was dying, I sang on 4 stages and I spoke on 3. Now, that was on my bucket list 10 years.
wow.
But, I thought maybe I don't know what I'm doing and maybe I won't look good and maybe I'll be embarrassed. And that kept me from doing something I really wanted to do for 10 years. But watching my husband, who was 6'3", go from 263 pounds to 146 pounds
Wow.
was a wake-up call. And
Yeah,
suddenly, the embarrassment didn't matter. What mattered was living. What mattered
exactly.
was recommitting to loving each other.
Exactly.
Because 25 years, it can become about who's taking out the garbage,
Yeah,
right? And who's
absolutely.
getting the groceries, and did you forget the eggs?
Exactly. I know. I could relate to that. Absolutely.
It's
So how,
life.
yeah, and how did you handle that mental challenge, that mental health challenge? Like, because when you get that, it's like that mindset, it's like having that mindset. It's like, okay, I know that these are things that we don't want to think about in life, but all of us have to go through it,
Yep.
regardless whether it's an illness or it's just natural causes. But it's something that we all are going to experience it one way or another, right? Obviously sometimes they just pop up and take us by surprise. So how was that mental health for you, that mental challenge, like overcoming that?
It was very rough. So I needed to increase the amount of self-care that I did.
Okay.
But because I couldn't, when I was exhausted, I couldn't think. What I did was I went to my friends and I asked them for all their best self-care ideas. And I got a list of 100.
Okay.
So when
Wow.
I needed something to do that would sort of bring me back to myself, I just went to my list. It was
Mm,
great.
okay. And so did you have people like in your family, there people that were by your side, were motivational to you at all? Friends, family, coworkers, anyone?
I did have family who were in my court. I had other family who didn't hang around. People have their own tolerance for um, suffering and watching someone be mortal and head towards leaving.
Okay.
And so if it was too hard for them, they left,
Right.
um, which was tough, which was really tough. But I had a lot of support. The
Oh, that's
problem is that it's impossible to understand. I mean, you've been there. It's impossible to understand what it's like inside that experience,
it
that
is.
fear, you know?
Yes. Yes.
And maybe you'll make it out and maybe you won't, but there's no guarantees from there.
Absolutely, Allison. And thank you for sharing that. And so how, like, moving after that, like having to, be that widow. Like, of course you came out. What is the with the name Bad Widow? Can you give us some of that?
Sure. So after my husband died, so he died at home, just the two of us in my arms.
Wow.
Um, and after he died, I really felt like I was broken. We were together 25 years. I couldn't imagine my life without him.
Yeah.
And there I was in my life without him.
Wow.
And there was no choice about it, you know. And so I felt broken, and people treated me like I was broken,
Broken. Yeah.
and I couldn't see a future where I wouldn't feel that way. And I couldn't make decisions. My energy was really variable. I had
Okay.
memory loss,
Wow.
literal gaps in my memory. I couldn't focus. I had no energy to connect with people. So all of the things I was qualified for, I couldn't do.
Okay.
Because a proofreader and a medical editor need memory and focus.
Absolutely.
A consultant needs energy, memory, and focus.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Because you're
So,
consulting with other people and whatnot.
yeah. And I couldn't deal with people very well. So, Bad Widow, into this kind of void that of my inability to make decisions, people came forward with their good advice because they really meant well and they really wanted to help me, except that they couldn't give me what I really wanted, which was bring him back.
Mm-hmm.
Give me back the life I've just lost.
Exactly.
And so they couldn't help me with what I really needed, and I couldn't articulate what I needed very well because I thought they should know. But how could they? And so Bad Widow came about because I realized that there was this big communication gap because nobody was talking about what it was like from inside this raw place.
Mm.
There were lots of books about how do you release things and how do you get the finances dealt with.
Exactly.
So lots of these practical things, but mostly people were talking about the journey after they were through it. It did not help me from in the middle.
No, no, absolutely. I understand. Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't relate. And so Bad Widow was about telling the truth from inside it.
Mm.
I'll give you an example. So people said an awful lot, "How are you?" And I would think, how do you think I am? I just lost the man I loved 25 years. I'm trying to handle paying for an apartment and a studio and clearing out a studio where my husband worked for 30 some years, when walking into it had me burst into tears
Yeah,
every day.
absolutely.
So, how do you think I am? And so what I did was, rather than just going along and saying I was fine, I said, actually, I can't answer that because I can't see a future where I don't feel this way.
Right.
I said, how about the thing that I can answer is I can answer, how are you right now?
Ah,
How are you
at that
today?
moment. Yeah. Right.
Because that I could answer. And I started, so Bad Widow came about to kind of bridge this communication gap that I saw and to push back against people thinking I was broken. Because there came a time, and literally everything I learned came out of something going wrong. I went to an appointment. I walked almost 2 blocks in slippers. And the only reason I noticed I didn't have shoes on is that my heels got cold.
Cold. Wow.
Cold.
Yeah.
And so then I put a sign on my door. It said, wallet, keys, coat, shoes. So every breakdown, I developed a net to hold me.
Okay.
But I only knew I needed the net after something went wrong.
Right. Okay.
It's how we
That
learn,
makes sense.
right?
Right. Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. Because it's a
And
process. You were going through a long, a difficult process, and you're by yourself,
yeah,
basically.
yeah. So there were sort of these stages that I moved myself through and that I now move the people I work with through. The first was, how do I come back to myself? remember who I am? Not just a
Exactly.
widow,
Yes.
but a woman, an entrepreneur, a daughter, a sister. We're so many things to so many people. And how could I remember that? And part of singing was about taking that back. So I sang songs the Tuesday before my husband died, 4 days before he died. I sang in a cabaret show. And one of the songs I sang, the first song I sang was I Will Survive, Gloria
Mm.
Gaynor,
Yeah.
because I had to remind myself that I would. It did not feel like it in that moment.
So
It
you were
was,
like your own coach. You were coaching yourself. You were motivating yourself. You were like, wow.
I
Okay.
was, I
Yeah. I
was.
mean, you had to because it was just you and your husband. Did you guys ever have any children?
We didn't.
Okay.
We didn't. Um,
See, and
and
that's difficult too because if I understand that if you have a son or daughter, you have that support from them, and that'll all motivate you too because if father or mother's not there, one of them is gone. One of them has to take the responsibility. But you were just like in a desert.
yeah, I mean, it gives you something to live for. And the other thing that it gives you is hugs.
Exactly.
Like, you don't think about how much human beings require
That
touch,
affection. Yes.
affection. And
Yes.
so my widow friends with kids, they still had that touch
Yes.
that I
And
was
that's
lacking.
different. That's
It's
totally
different.
different. Yes, it is.
So
Wow.
hard. So I sort of went along, and the first year was what I called a wasteland of grief. Just devastating. Um, I could burst into tears at a moment's notice, but somewhere in that first year, I decided I'd sort of contracted to heal, seen less people, done less things. I just didn't have the energy. And at a
Okay.
certain point in that first year, I decided it was time for me to start trying to push out for a bigger life
Wow.
again, start to try to live. But my capacity was really small. I mean, there were days I could barely get out of bed. And there were days when I had more energy, but I couldn't count on any of it.
Was it with the depression? Where you felt that
Very
depression?
depressed,
Yeah.
very, very depressed.
Okay.
And so when I had energy, I went really, really, really fast.
Right. You took advantage of that.
Yeah. And when I
Yeah.
had no energy, I amped up the self care.
Okay.
So I would go for a walk, or I would sing, or I would do something that filled me up. And so the first thing that I decided to push out on was in work. I had a friend who had another widow who had a Halloween pop-up store, and she was willing for me to work 4-hour shifts. So I didn't have energy for 8. I couldn't have done it. But she said, you can come and you can work in the pop-up store for 2 4-hour shifts a week.
Okay.
And I couldn't do anything I was qualified for, but I could hang a costume
Oh, okay.
on a rack,
Yeah.
and I could interact with people a little bit in this place. And so that's
Okay.
how I started
Right.
pushing out, making a little bit bigger world. And what I found was that as I did that, I could push even further, a 6-hour day, an
Mhm.
8-hour day. The thing that's really important to know is that you're not the same person as you were before that
Right.
loss, grieving that loss. And if you look at this last 18 months, we've all been grieving so many losses of so many different kinds,
Yes.
and we are not the same. And there's no going back. That is very disturbing and very freeing, because Once you've re-engaged, then what you have to do is reinvent yourself. What happens once you realize that life is short is that you stop being willing to settle for less than what you really want.
Okay.
So you might have noticed after your scare that you took a good hard look at your life and your priorities, and
Yeah.
those things that really mattered rose up,
Yes.
and
Absolutely.
you started putting them in the calendar. And maybe in the course of life, they had just drifted out a little bit. So that stops. So there was the sort of first piece is re-engage in the world. The
Right.
second piece is reinvent yourself. Who are you now? What are your priorities since your loss, since this kind of reset? I'll tell you, there's something about having the person you've loved for 25 years die in your arms that seriously wakes you up and makes you unwilling to settle.
Yes.
And that is true. That is the possibility of these heartbreaking experiences.
Yes. But that's incredible that you were able to coach yourself, push yourself. Obviously, you had your days where you just could not get out of bed. That's I think that's totally normal, because we're human. We're full of emotion. The emotion that go up and the emotions that are down at times. And that
Yep.
can make your mood a good mood one day or a bad mood one day. It all depends. Now, moving forward, what was, because now obviously after that loss, like, how would you get back to reconnecting with people and opening up intimacy again?
Yeah. So that was the most complicated thing. Feeling desire at all
Okay.
felt like betrayal. Now, in my head, I knew my husband was gone,
Right.
but my heart hadn't caught up.
Oh.
So, but I decided, so pushing out on boundaries, I decided that I was unwilling to live without love. And so I would risk it. And when you experience this kind of a loss, the idea of maybe going through that pain again
Yeah.
is absolutely terrifying.
Scary. Yes, it is.
So scary. But I was determined, and I decided that what I wanted to start with was I wanted to start doing things with men and just start getting out there, going on dates.
Okay.
I got on Bumble, which is a dating app.
Okay.
And the last time I had dated was when I met my husband in 1992.
Wow.
And it was 2018.
Oh my God.
Times have changed.
Yes. Very changed.
And my confidence in myself, in how I looked, in how everything was really, I had no idea what I was doing. I had forgotten everything I ever knew about dating and flirting and all of that stuff.
Yeah, of course.
So it was really scary. But I got on Bumble, and what I decided to do, because the reinvent piece of what I did was just trying all these different things. Okay, I'm going to try this. Do I like it? Do I not like it? If I liked it, I kept it. If I didn't like it, it went. So I
Okay.
started doing this with men on this
Yeah.
dating app.
Exactly.
So I wrote my profile to describe myself as clearly as I could.
Of course. Uh-huh.
For example, I like Maine rocky beaches. I don't like sandy beaches. So I put that in the profile. And the point was, if someone liked the Jersey Shore, if someone liked, no disrespect, but Florida, not my person.
Exactly.
Somebody's person, but not my person.
Yeah, it's not your interest, right?
So I wanted to have people see, well, this is not a person I'm interested in connecting with. So I didn't have to reject them. They deselected me.
Okay. That made it easier for you. They're like, okay, next.
Yeah. And then I looked at the responses that I got, the people who said yes to me. And then I looked at if I liked how they were responding. And then if I didn't like something that was happening, I changed something in my profile till I got better responses.
Okay.
By the time I went out live with anybody, I only dated great men.
Mm. That you guys had a lot in common. Had to be something you had a lot in common with.
In terms of values, more than anything
More
else.
than anything, absolutely. Yeah.
They didn't have to love everything I loved,
No, of course. Yeah.
but they had to have basically the same. They had to believe in kindness. They had to
Okay.
believe in integrity, loyalty, the things I really cared about. I was looking for my next epic love affair. So
Okay.
everyone was getting screened through that.
Mm.
But I didn't care about their height, their income, none of
Yeah.
that in the first set.
Okay.
And I went on my first date July 1st, and I already had a date with this young guy. And I answered this man named Wayne. I guess I swiped right on him. He answered me. I answered back. And I said, I'm going to go to this movie or that movie. And why don't we get together someday? And he wrote me right back. And he said, let's go to one of the two movies I said and have someday be today. And I thought, okay. And we went out. That was July 1st. This upcoming July 1st, we will have known each other for 3 years.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yep. But I was a hot mess.
Yeah.
I couldn't trust my own body chemistry.
Yeah.
My skin was accustomed to only my husband's skin for 25 years.
Wow.
And so there would be days or moments where I would say, don't touch me. And then I would have to explain what was going on because crazy reactions.
Yeah.
Right? That didn't make any sense at all.
And how did he take that? How was his reaction? Like,
he is amazing.
see, yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's the
He is
word.
amazing. He said as long as I was willing to keep communicating and keep pressing through, he could hang in there with me. But I literally, I was nuts.
Wow.
I was nuts. And what I had to do when I'd have one of these reactions is I had to ask myself, it was really important to take responsibility for myself.
Yeah.
I had to say, is it me? Is it him? Or is it us?
Right.
And that was a really important question because it told me what I needed to do next. I mean, if it was me, I had to handle me.
Right, exactly.
If it was him, we needed to have a conversation. And if it was us, then that was something else.
Okay.
But I remember I told him this one time, my husband died September 10th. Our anniversary was October 5th. Then Thanksgiving, then his birthday, then Christmas, then New Year's. So this season was awful for me.
Right, yeah.
So I said to Wayne, you might not want to see me until January.
See you next year. Yeah.
It's going to be a bad time. And then the next day, he said, okay. The next day, I called him up and I invited him to go to a museum with me to see my cousin sing and meet my mother. I was crazy.
Ooh.
I was nuts.
Oh,
I was not sending clear signals, shall we
no,
say.
absolutely. And meet my mom. Oh my God.
Yep.
That
And
is
then,
serious. That is serious. When you say when someone says I want you to meet my mom or my dad, it's because it's something serious.
right, right. But I would go forward, back away, go forward, back away.
Right.
And we just, this man just kept rising to the surface. He just kept hanging in there with me. And
Incredible.
what he said was that if you're willing to be that brave, I can be that patient.
Wow.
And that's how we got through.
Yeah.
But it was not easy. I mean,
No,
for either of us.
I can imagine. Yeah, because I mean, for him to for someone to adapt to someone that has gone through what you went through at the time,
Yep.
it was for him to like just the first date. Okay, I'll call you. Don't call me. I'll call you.
So long.
Yeah.
See ya.
So for him to be there, it was like you said, it was something chemistry, and he gave you that space. I respect that. That's wonderful to hear because not too many, especially in this era. I mean, you probably talk probably in the 80s or 90s,
Yep.
it was probably acceptable, but even in today's world, you don't hear that too often. You know?
And I would say that the moment where I really would say I fell in love with him, it was an anniversary of some kind, and I had been crying. I had been crying straight for 8 hours, and I had a date with him, and I thought, who wants this? I mean, this
Yeah.
is not a prize experience here. But what I decided was that he could decide for himself. So I called him up and I said, this is what's been going on. I've been crying for 8 hours. We have a date. I really would like to see you, and I have no idea how I'm going to be.
So be ready.
No idea.
Yeah.
And, feel free to say, no, I'm not up for this.
Right.
Count me out. And he said, no, I'm okay. And
Wow.
because he was willing to let me be how I was,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have to cry because I wasn't suppressing the tears.
Okay.
There's a huge grace in allowing someone to be where they are
Absolutely.
and not making them put on a I'm fine,
Yeah. Yeah. The fake. Yeah.
that face.
Exactly.
Because if you're depressed, and it's not something that's under your control.
Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's not under your control. But like you did, which I admire, is that you were your own coach. You were
Yep.
like, okay, you just motivated. You read book, like you said, you sang. You did something to distract your mind from being in that.
Yeah, I basically designed, so it's in my nature to look at things that don't work and come up with solutions. The last piece of what I did and do is rebuilt my networks.
Okay.
So people step up, they step back, and they step out. And especially if it's a spouse, you lose a big piece of your support network.
Absolutely.
You have no idea how essential they are until they're gone. And our networks aren't designed to fill those spaces. So I wound up with all these holes.
Okay.
I started thinking about networks differently because we think about our networks as for business.
Right.
Referrals. Are you getting referrals? Are you not getting
Exactly.
referrals? But
Right.
because I needed stuff in all areas of my life, I started seeing that networks hold us up everywhere. Who are you going out for a beer with? Who are you going to go do a certain kind of exercise? Who are you going to business brainstorm with? Who are you going to travel internationally with? These aren't the same people. And so I looked at my network and I thought, okay, well, what do I want to be doing And are there the people in my network who will do those things with me? And I started deliberately filling those spots with the people I chose.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
because
incredible. Yeah.
yeah, because if you match your network to your what you desire to have happen, you start getting what you want very fast.
Absolutely. Yeah.
The other thing I found as a widow, so I've always had this idea that if you ask something, then you owe that person something. And so I've been reluctant to ask. And what I found out, and so then I would tell myself a story, well, people don't really want to give me what I want.
Yeah.
And what I discovered was that that's just not true. So as a widow, people wanted to give me, within the limits of what they could do, anything I needed or wanted. But they didn't want to get it wrong.
Mm.
So if I could be so clear about what I wanted that they could not get it wrong, that they could be a superhero, they would do it about 80% of the time. It was
Okay.
amazing.
Wow. Alice, have you ever thought of, do you have a book? Have you ever thought of writing a book?
I'm in the process of writing a book.
Really? Okay. I asked almost
Yes.
everyone that here that has this type of story. I said, you have to write a book because it would help so many women and even generations that are yet to come that,
Yep.
so that's good. And would it be anything to a title as a bad widow or something?
So it's called The Bad Widow Guide to Life After Loss, Moving
Okay.
Through Grief to Live and Love Again.
Wow.
And I
Oh,
already have the cover.
get out of here. All right. And will that be available in Amazon and whatnot?
It will be available in Amazon. It will be published September 20th,
Of this
2021.
year.
This year.
What?
Yep. So
Awesome.
coming out.
Oh yes, and I'm definitely gonna get that book. Absolutely. I was like, hey, I had her on my podcast. Actually, we could talk about that too sometime in the future too. Once the book comes out,
For
we'll do
sure.
another section, and I'll be honored and glad to have you on there talking about that book. That's good. How many? About how big of a book? I'm afraid of these big books. Is it a lot of pages or?
It'll be about 100 pages, 100,
Okay.
125 pages. So it's not going to be enormous. And
Okay.
it's going to be a book with these ideas, re-engage, reinvent, rebuild.
Right.
But it's going to be a book that's driven by stories.
Exactly. Okay.
Because the things that I work with people with were born out of the breakdowns I experienced myself.
Yourself.
And they
Exactly.
work like crazy. They
Yeah.
really work.
Wow. So whoever gets this book will be finding ways of how to, manage depression, fear, grief, and whatnot, as you have in your bio. Okay.
Yep.
So September of this year, right?
September 20th.
September 20th to be exact. All right. And are you going to be do you do any motivational speaking and
I do some speaking. With the pandemic, I have not done much of that lately. But
yeah. Yeah.
when the world opens up, I will be out there.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Yeah, because I want to know if you're ever like you'll be traveling, correct?
Yep.
Throughout the US? Okay. Okay, 'cause I'll be following you on your social media so I could see what day you probably in Florida, and I'll be more than glad to, come down and listen to one of your seminars.
Oh, I'd
'Cause-
love that.
yeah, because will you have for your book, like will you be signing books and stuff like that? Is what Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
Okay,
I'll
perfect.
do all that.
Okay, perfect. Yes, because then like that, I will definitely get to meet you in person, meet my wife, my family, and whatnot, and get your book
Oh, that would be so great.
and get your book signed. And I would, oh my God, that'd be so lovely. I appreciate it. Yes. Well, thank
That'd
you,
be awesome.
Allison. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Well, time has flown, and I know that you have a busy schedule and whatnot, but thank you once again. And I definitely we're gonna commit to another podcast with the book come September. So I'm definitely gonna
Yay.
save the date around there for that, and we're gonna definitely talk about that book and whatnot. And thank you, Allison, so much for being here. Is there any last words that you want to say for my audience, especially women that I've maybe gone through what you're going through? Because I know this is gonna be available through YouTube and Facebook, and someone's gonna probably hear it down the road. Anything last words that you could say regarding that?
Yeah, what I would say most of all is trust yourself. So we try and make a lot of decisions with our head, and it's really important that the biggest way to get centered from all of the feelings is to get present. And
Okay.
that only happens in the body. So that's movement, singing, walking, all
Keeping the
that
mind
stuff.
busy. That's what I call. Keep that mind busy. Don't just sit yourself in the room and cry
But
about
also hook into your body, your breath,
your inner self. Okay.
stay present.
Absolutely. Wow, Allison. Thank you so much, Allison. I appreciate you sharing the story with my audience. Thank you so much. And soon. I mean, I know enjoy the rest of the summer, and then we'll be in touch in September, definitely to talk about that book. I'm so excited about that.
Thank you so much for having me on, Angel.
You're welcome, Allison. Thank you, and you have a blessed rest of the week, okay?
You too.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, there you have it, guys. Once again, the Young Entrepreneur Mindset Podcast. Follow me on Facebook. Subscribe to my YouTube channel, which I'm working on. And please share this content if you know of anyone that has maybe lived this type of experience. You know, my wife and I, for those of you who know us closely and know that we've been through that path, which is very fearful, but putting our faith in God and science and the doctors, and just being that our own self motivational and whatnot. And life comes at you very quickly and unexpectedly. And these events, we don't expect them to come, but these are topics that we do not want to talk about in our lives because we don't know what we would do, right? We would be scared and whatnot. So follow Allison Pena, and she's also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Look her up. And in September, we're going to have her once again. That's going to be such a privilege to have her because we'll be talking about her book. So, guys, thank you again for sharing this content, for connecting with me on this podcast. And before we leave, as you already know, I'd like to share with you just a little positive note on some of the gospel that I like to share, and is on Proverbs 14:6. It says, "Conceited people can never become wise, but intelligent people learn easily." Very simple. So, guys, thank you again for joining this podcast. Thank you again for subscribing, sharing, commenting. I'm going to have all the information, the links that you could watch it on YouTube again, through the Facebook, and the audio download. So if you don't have, time to watch it through video because maybe you're at work and your work doesn't allow you to see video, but you can have audio, I'm going to show you the audio download. Okay, guys? So once again, thank you. I hope you have a great rest of the week, and I'll see you on the next podcast. God bless. Take care.